So we had this Donald Trump campaign rally over the weekend. You have a female heckler that is being escorted out, and here's exactly what it sounded like.
Back home to mommy. She goes back home to mommy. Was that you, darling? And then she gets the hell knocked out of her. Her mother's a big fan of ours. You know that, right? Her father, her mother.
Gets the hell knocked out of her. Joining us to talk about this and other topics as well. It's been a while since we've had him on. He's a great journalist from Politico. Daniel Lippman joining us right now. Daniel, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. How are you?
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you being here. When you first heard that audio, what went through your mind?
What went through my mind was what he had said in previous campaigns, like take them out on the stretcher, because that's kind of some of the rhetoric. We did a story, Politico did, my colleague Maya Ward, about she watched a bunch of rallies in the last few weeks, and she noticed that the rhetoric has gotten darker. And so it's demonizing immigrants more, talking about what he would do as president in a very, dark fashion. This is not like Ronald Reagan shining city on a hill rhetoric anymore. And so that's been noteworthy because he's trying to rile up his base and get them out to support him.
And that was my next question. Do you think he's doing this on purpose? And I think you just answered that, right? I mean, he's doing this on purpose, right?
He is a very smart tactician, and he knows what plays well. And there's a reason politicians usually do negative ads and campaigns, because they work. And so he's not dumb that this is, he kind of makes the bet that he's going to get more of his supporters out from the base instead of some Nikki Haley type women from the suburbs that he might lose to Harris. And so he's trying to drive up people who may be new to voting, because he needs to expand his base a little bit, but mostly among men, and not really focusing too much on appealing to women.
Right. So, Daniel, after the rally, I've been covering this, and I know you guys have as well, where you had all these people that were bussed in for the rally, and then hundreds of people were stranded after the rally in 94-degree temperatures. They had to walk hours back to their cars. No food, no water, no access to restrooms. What do you make of this?
Well, it's a pretty shoestring campaign at times, and this is a campaign that has struggled with money because Harris has raised $1 billion plus. And so the Trump campaign is much more frugal, and you can see that in terms of how many volunteers, how many paid organizers they have across the swing states. Now, they're not doing as much of that. That's been outsourced a lot to Elon Musk, but it's kind of a black eye that they had all these supporters, hundreds of them, kind of stranded in the middle of nowhere, lacking life necessities. And so, but it was also interesting that he had gone to Coachella in the first place, because he's not going to win California. And so there's some Republicans who might wonder, hey, what is he doing there? Shouldn't he be in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin?
Yeah, Daniel, that's a great question. Why is he in California? Why is he going to some of these states that are not battleground states? He knows he's going to lose some of these states. If they're being so frugal, which I agree with you, they are in the campaign, then why are they spending money sending him to these states where he virtually, at least in my estimation, has no chance of winning?
Well, he might be trying to do this a little bit to help House candidates, Republicans who are in areas of the country like New York or California where they're in jeopardy, because a lot of people think that the House may flip to become Democrat while the Senate may flip the other way and become Republican. And so, remember there was those there was images of people leaving his earlier rallies in the last few months where Harris has made fun of, and Tim Walz has made fun of him for, hey, you're Mr. Rally guy, but you have people leaving your rallies early. And so if he can have a novel experience like Madison Square Garden, what New Yorker would not want to play Madison Square Garden? That's kind of the dream. Whenever I give speeches, they're, to a couple hundred people, they're not to Madison Square Garden myself. So I get the, I'll come back to me in 30 years and maybe I'll have hit Tony Robbins level.
No, that makes sense. Daniel Lippman from Politico joining us. So Daniel, this guy who was arrested over the weekend, you had the California sheriff, Van Miller is his name, by the way. The California sheriff is Chad Bianco, and he said he believed that his deputies prevented a third assassination attempt. This guy, Van Miller, was actually in studio. I interviewed him 2 years ago because he ran for office. He's a fringe right winger, as I'm sure you guys know. You've covered this. They released him on $5,000 bond. Why has this California sheriff come out and retracted what he said? I don't understand.
I think he was going over his skis, to borrow like a skiing metaphor. And from Lake Tahoe, I've gone skiing there. It's a very nice area. I think that the sheriff might have wanted to be in the headlines a little bit. But it's kind of a black eye on police that if he is just because you're arrested, even though I think all these police are on hair trigger alert because there's been several incidents where the Florida one, the Pennsylvania in Butler, that if someone is arrested with a gun at a Trump rally, then they assume the worst, and they didn't really do they don't know the background of this guy. He gave an interview to a local outlet saying, "Hey, I'm actually a big Trump supporter. I didn't know the rules between Nevada and California state laws about guns." And so he may not have had an ulterior motive, but this is a person who said he's a sovereign citizen, and he's not, he's a very, him better than I do, but more of a.
Well, he's a lunatic. He's a lunatic. He had fake VIP passes. I think my last guest said, yeah, he's just kind of a tool, kind of a guy that, wants to do whatever he can to get access to all sorts of different people. And he went to the lengths of faking VIP passes to a Trump event. But certainly, in my estimation, and I think in yours as well, this was not even close to an assassination attempt. And I think this California sheriff, as you mentioned eloquently, doing a disservice to his own officers and law enforcement for doing so. Before I let you go, Daniel, you're so good at what you do, and I love what you guys do at Politico. Can you give out that information? How could people follow you and follow your articles on Politico?
So I'm D Lippman on Twitter or X. That's DLIPPMAN. I tweet out all my scoops, and also we have you can subscribe to my articles. We have a web page. If you just search Daniel Lippman Politico, you can just put in your email address and get my articles to your email. So
cool.
Thank you for subscribing.
Daniel, you're great at what you do, my man. Always appreciate the time. Hopefully we can have you on again before the elections. It's a busy couple weeks for both of us. And I appreciate you taking the time to do the show, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate that. That's Daniel Lippman, everybody from Politico. I love Politico. They do a great job.